Hi everybody, sorry for being out today. I did not intend for this, but I will be back tomorrow, and any of your questions I will happily ask then. Our student assistant is going to be doing primarily his own work today, but if you have any questions, he also can probably help. Don't forget your neighbors are taking the same class as you, so they also can probably help with anything you might need. Core will be closed today, but it definitely looks like people were doing great when I saw you guys last week, and we're well on our way to finishing this up by Wednesday. Today on the agenda, you notice that it is going to be due by Wednesday. Tomorrow will be finishing touches and blurbs. And then today, we're really working to make sure that you finish up that shading and possibly start that close-up sketch. So in our rubric, we go to that. You'll notice that we had lots of different things on here that we've already talked about. But the primary thing that I wanted to point out to you is the fact of the drawing craftsmanship as well as the shading. So with drawing craftsmanship, this is going to be like the overall, like how you put the body together. So most of you guys are well on your way to being done with that, hopefully already done with that. That's that many lines we already did. And then for the shading, these are the highlights and shadows that we've been working through. Now you will notice that this mostly plays on like how close those values are, but also I want to make sure that you guys are putting them in appropriate areas. Last thing to point out, so if you have done your side view and you've done your face, you're in great shape. It does still look like there are two things left. So if you are done with your shading and you're done with your drawing craftsmanship for the line work, then maybe it's time to focus on those. I'm going to navigate away and go to my project that I've been working on with you guys and introduce some new tools. First tool is going to be our type tool. So our type tool is going to be located near the bottom of the frame. Remember, when you can't find something, you can always use that magnifying glass up here and then type that in, and it will come up with the options for you. So, and just by hovering, it'll show you where those are. If I click on that type tool, and then I click somewhere on my page, it will autofill a section. Now this first part is we got to figure out what its name is. So I asked you to come up with a name because I think that helps you think through the personality of it all. And so this is where you would type that in, name of Dragoon. And then next thing on there, we would want to find a font. So I'll show you how I named mine and then move that down for you guys. So Fleur de Glyph is how I would pronounce mine. A little bit silly, but a little bit fun. That's kind of what I was hoping for with this one. When you do go to edit that actual font, you will need to make sure you are on the type tool. The move tool, like as you see me using here, it will allow you to move it like it's a shape or a block or a line, but the type tool is the thing that actually allows you to affect the text that's on there. So I'm on the type tool, and then I have to highlight the whole entire thing. After I have highlighted the whole entire thing, I can click right above, and it will give me the options for all of the different fonts that are on here. It also has this handy thing over here where it organizes them into folders. So if you know you want something fancy like a script, then you can narrow it down by clicking script. If you know you want something just like kind of clean, maybe, not a lot of excess lines, that's maybe going to be probably your sans serif. And then you can click on that different option as well to get all kinds of things in there. Let's go with, trying to see, I don't know, kind of want to go with something just kind of plain for this demo. So let's go with that one. And you see as it pops up, it changed the font that it was in. Another thing to note, so not all fonts have the options to change into bold, italic, medium, all of these different things, but directly next to the font up here will be the different kind of modes that you can put it in. So this one is currently in thin. I can make it extra bold, and then it'll still be the same font, but in a different kind of mode. Not all fonts will have this. So you see some of them have carrots next to them, some of them do not. So if I click this one, notice it does not have any extra things that go along with it. Notice it did not have a carrot over here. We do probably want to make this bigger as well. So you can see there's an option for that here. There's also an option for it directly next to. it, and so we can, make that as big as was probably appropriate for your page, and that's going to look different from person to person, so maybe this is good for me at 36 points. And then last thing is like the alignment. Probably shouldn't mess around with that too terribly much. I usually leave mine left aligned. Following that, we have the overall color of the thing. Now notice up here is white, and down here is a very light purple. So what you're seeing is the font color choices up here, where this is what was previously loaded in my brush. They are not necessarily the same thing. In order to change the actual font, I'm going to need to click on that text color. If I already have my hex code loaded in, I can hit Command V once I'm in that little spot. Looks like I don't, so we'll go back through, use the eyedropper tool, go back to that color, back to here, Command C, go back to the type tool, open up its color, then paste it in, and voila, now we have the actual color. They're slightly different if you're wanting it to match. For colors of your font and things like that, it really shouldn't clash, and you want it to stand out in a good contrast sort of way. So let's say you wanted to leave it white, that'd be okay. If you want to leave it black, also okay. But we don't want to do anything crazy with our colors here. So for example, I probably wouldn't want to have like yellow text on here because that contrast might be just a little bit too dizzying for my eyes. But that's the first thing. So naming your dragon, coming up with that name. Next thing with your type tool, figuring out who is this dragon. So instead of just clicking, I'm going to click and drag before I let go of my mouse, and it will autofill a larger section. This is kind of, think about like making like a text box. I also know that I'm going to probably want to put like a few more things in this box so I can change the size immediately. From there, I'll press delete, and the kind of things that you can put in here include like the inspo. So mine was inspired by like a flower. It also was inspired by that weird crocodile, so maybe like the animals that you put in it that helped you make your dragon. You could also talk about the personality of the dragon. And of course, with all the good personality, who doesn't love to read about a little lore? So, any backstory that you want to provide to it would be another great thing to put in here. I would say just about a paragraph, probably no more than that. When there's not a lot there, it's definitely less interesting for your viewers to get a hold of like what's going on, so be thoughtful in what you contribute. And then, let's say you get all the way done with all of that. The very last thing would be doing that close-up. Now your close-up does not have to be in color, it can just be line work. That is the only thing that I need from this. And so in order to do a close-up, we're going to first start off with a shape, and then drawing that across. You guys have used the shape tool before. Again, keep consistent with your color scheme, and remember to use the arrow tool to move it. After you've moved it, you can draw directly on top one of the areas of your dragon. So maybe I want to do an even closer up view of just this weird nose that's happening over here, and I can sketch that out. Maybe I want to do a close-up of the tail. That would be great because my tail is pretty unique. I can sketch that out. Maybe I want to do the claws. Maybe I want to do the wings. You've got options. They are also listed on that rubric if you want to go in and see some of those options as well. Looks like, yeah, so I have tails, wings close up for here, but it can be more than that. And yeah, that is pretty much what you guys are doing today. Please again remember that I will be back tomorrow, but tomorrow is finishing touches. Goal is getting it turned in by Wednesday and being able to do that critique on Wednesday. Thank you so much for being in the amazing class that I know you are, and I hope